Adieu, Nick Parr.
I guess you guys are kind of guinea pigs because this is the first time I've done a demonstration like this. I built the wood lathe a number of years ago. I saw it in Fine Woodworking magazine, and I thought it would be neat to have, and so I picked up some oak, and basically it was a green woodworker picked up some green oak, and I built it, and then I spent time figuring out how to make it stable so that it would work, and I finally succeeded. I did make a few small alterations to it, but I guess to back up a little bit, I taught middle school shop for 40 years, and that gave me an opportunity to have some tools that I didn't have at home, so that I actually made it at school. And the kids enjoyed watching me make it. They enjoyed watching me trying to get it work. And basically that's where I honed my skills for doing the wood turning. The treadle lathe, the basic idea for the treadle lathe is attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. He seemed to have gotten into just about everything. They're not sure whether he actually had one made, but he did have some drawings made up for it. But they didn't really start getting used until the mid-1800s. Prior to that, when they did any lathe work, you know, you had somebody with a crank that was cranking it like this, and somebody else with the tools to do the turning, and then they started hooking them up to steam power and water power and so on. But I made this because I just thought it would be fun, and then when I retired and started going into doing wood turn almost full time and going to shows, I thought, hey, that'd be cool to take it there. It'd give me an opportunity, as my wife would say, give you something else to run your mouth about. And but you know, one of the things that we all who go to shows look for is a gimmick to get people to come into our booth. And the first show that I attended, I was there as a first-time vendor at Arts Fest in Solomons, Maryland, and at Arts Fest, one of the areas where the vendors was on a paved path that went out through the woods, and I was on basically in the middle of that path, halfway, and there were about 6 or 8 other vendors right there. We were in the woods under the trees. You didn't have to have pop-ups because you didn't have to worry about the sun. And the other vendors were thrilled when I would get up and start working, because the pathway would literally get blocked, and because people were standing there watching me. I'm not sure whether it helped my sales or not, but it helped theirs. And you know, over the years, I've taken it to maybe a dozen shows, and it gives me an opportunity to show the people, the spectators, how some of these wood-turned items are made. You know, it's a neat thing because it goes back to the time before electricity and what we are all used to now. The lathe I normally use is the Nova 3000. You flip a switch, you hit some buttons, and you're at 3,000 RPM in a heartbeat, you know. And this one here, on a good day for a few minutes, I can get about 1,500 RPM. But I could run for quite a while on, I think it's about 800 RPM. Like I said, when I build it, I build it out of green oak. You know, we'll learn one of these days, but the oak, as we find with the it shrinks and grows and everything else, and so I had to put shims in here to get this stable. The biggest problem that I have right now is just trying to keep the wheel aligned. I've had a lot of suggestions putting grooves on the flywheel down here, but the information I have is if it's concave, no, it's curved out, yeah, that you have a belt on it. If the wheels are aligned, the belt, if it starts going off to one side, it gets loose on one side and tightens up on the other, and it will tend to track it back into the middle and if you have a groove, you'd think it would stay there, but if it gets out of alignment, it can walk right out of the groove. And apparently this does work easier, but just trying to get the wheel to stay in place, it takes a little bit. It does work pretty good. But I'll tell you, the other day I was reading the new issue of Woodturners Design, and I found out that according to the author, that the story there, that I was doing something kind of special because I cut with right and left-handed. Some problems that I've come up with this particular design is that the treadle itself is not as strong as the article implied that it should have been. And I've had to put it back together a few times. I put some braces on it to hold it up, and I really, the idea was that you would have the treadle be made out of lightweight so that it doesn't cut into the power going to your piece of wood here. But I find that I don't even try to work out here in the corner. I'll just go work in the middle and just work on the side here. I have gotten, with some practice, I've gotten so that I can turn a little bit with my left leg, although I can't do that as easy as I can switch my tools back and forth, In fact, the first time I did it with the left leg, I got it going like this, and I went up and down once, and it just stopped it. The leg wouldn't do what it was supposed to. One of the things about using this is that the larger the diameter, you've got more braking power. When you put your tool up there to cut, usually it'll pop right off when it does that. It takes more power to keep it turning. If I were going to turn something larger, I think I would and get some lead or something and put some weights in my flywheel to get more momentum to keep the flywheel going. The idea that in physics, when something's in motion, it wants to stay in motion. Well, if you can get the weight of the flywheel going, it will keep it going a little bit better. Another problem that I've had over time is that the key in the crank wants to loosen up, and it does. I put some set screws in to try to keep it stable, but it's still they just want to come loose. But anyway, it is a lot of fun. One of the things that I have figured out is that as you are using the treadle, it's not just your leg that is working. If you get the rocking going on your ankle, on your foot, then you don't have to get quite as much movement in the leg. Now, when you're doing that, you can get the speed up, but you can't. You're not going to get a lot of power with it that way. And I'll tell you, at the craft shows, it's fun to watch the people come by take a look at it and realize, oh my gosh, look at that, you know. And you'll see mom or dad or even granddad talking to the kid, explaining what it is and a little bit of how it works. And the kids sit there for a long time watching. I usually tire out before they do. And when I do go to the shows, I don't really have a project that I make. I just do a little bit of turning, put some beads in it and some tapers and so on. And my thought is that, you know, the people don't want to stand there and watch me sanding it. There's not a lot of excitement in that. They like seeing the shavings come off and the shape. I also get pieces of wood. I prep them at home and get them round to begin with. You know, we've all put pieces of wood on the lathe, and we've got the squares and the uneven sections, and depending on how big it is, you know, it can beat you up pretty bad. Well, it's even worse when you're working on something like this and you're trying to keep it turning, and you hit an uneven section. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What did you use for a belt?
I went to the home ec teacher and I asked her if she had a piece of it's a piece of ribbon, really. Here not long ago I realized that something had shifted a little bit, and so I had to cut it and sew it and make it a little bit shorter because I couldn't get any more tightening on the system that I have here. The one thing that I think that I need to do now is these two pieces that I'm using to hold the flywheel in place. They were meant, the holes were drilled in place so that I could have the big wooden pegs in there. Well, the wooden pegs, I never could get them to stay tight. I could get them, they can stay tight. I could turn for a minute or two, and then it would shift just enough, loosen up just enough, so that the alignment would be off again, and the belt would come off. So I finally gave up and put some bolts in there so that I could hold it together. But now I've got these great big holes in the small bolts, and you know, it's fun. Some of the gentlemen were in watching as I was putting it together, and I was having a terrible time getting the two wheels to line up, and I just took it apart and reversed, took these two pieces, the braces there, and switched sides, and it works. So, you know.
Tight tolerance, huh?
Yeah.
How long did it take to build it?
Not too long. The construction of it really is not that difficult. You know, you draw out the pieces. The plans that I have give you enough information so you can lay it out and draw it and cut it, and so it didn't take too long. The longest was making the pegs, and as I was trying to get it all to be stable, I broke a bunch of them. You know, just banging them in. I'm figuring, hey, I'll just hammer it in more and it'll work. And but it didn't. Yes, sir.
How true to the design is your machine on the floor here?
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Pretty good.
Yeah, the reason I asked that, I had one of these plan magazines come my way years ago, and I built a roller cart which had flip-out tops and you could use it for field. And they had selected red oak, which is not good for outdoors. It should have been white oak. And I had to send a note to the publisher, and it says, "Oh my God, how did we do that?" And I said, "Hey, it's your business, your publisher." And I had to refinish it almost every year.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
I put some ball bearings for my flywheel. I've got some. One summer I was working at a yacht yard repairing sailboats, and they had some pretty pretty nice, I forget the name of some, plastic that is used for, bearings. And, I took some scraps of that just to try to loosen things up so that you can get some, make it easier to turn. You know, you've got your spindle up here, and you apply pressure from the tailstock, and it's pushing everything against the piece of oak, the frame, and you know there's not a whole lot of, or it gets tight. It doesn't turn real easy. In fact, you have to be careful you don't tighten it too tight, because if you do, it doesn't work. But I made everything on here. The shop I was teaching in, I had a metal lathe, and so I was able to make this with the threads in it. I made everything. The crank, you know, I'm a woodworker, I'm not a welder, and I was at Thermont at the Color Fest one year, and the crank broke. It was Saturday morning, you know, I had a whole nother, and I didn't have a welder anymore, so I finally, when I left that night, I took the lathe home and didn't bring it back the next day, because there were too many people that wanted to see it work, and it couldn't, because it was broken, and I couldn't fix it.
Beautiful piece of work.
But it's fun. It's not as tiring as you might think. You know, the pace is a little more than a walking pace, but you're not up there. It's not like you're on a marathon trying to see how fast you can go. You find a pace, a rhythm that is good for you, and it just keeps on going. I was at Colonial Days up in East Berlin, and there was a vendor a few booths down that had a treadle-powered wood lathe. Only this treadle-powered wood lathe that he brought in on a trailer, and he was making, they laminated their barrel staves basically, and was making a wooden ice bucket.
Wow.
And he would, the treadle was big enough that he would get the kids to power it for him, you know, and, but that's the only other wood lathe, treadle power wood lathe I had seen. When I was at Arts Fest in Solomons, and you know, you're working, and I'm watching what I'm doing, and I realize that there are people there, and I realized that this gentleman was standing there longer than was typical, and he was asking questions, and when I finally tired out and stopped, he started asking me specific questions about how this lathe worked. And it turns out he was a curator at Stratford Hall, Lee's birthplace, and they had just proved that there was a woodworking shop or a cabinet shop at the plantation, and somebody had donated a treadle power wood lathe, only it was all in pieces. And he put it together, and it wasn't working the way he thought it should, and so he was looking at mine to see if he could get some ideas as to how to get his working. Unfortunately, I couldn't get down there to visit with him because we were in the process of moving at that time, and I need to get down there now, so anyway.
The legs, did you cut them out of a wide board?
Yes.
Okay.
Stopped at a lumber company up in Bowie, and picked up, it was probably a 2x10, and a couple pieces that were about 15 feet long or so. Tied them on the top of the car that I had, and took them to school.
Coming down the road, huh?
Oh, it was, yes.
Jeez, sculpture of that roof.
One of the things that you find is that, you know, some of us have difficulties chewing and riding a bicycle at the same time, or chewing gum and riding a bicycle at the same time. And this particular setup right here, you know, when you're using the wood lathe, you've got both feet planted firmly on the ground, and you're moving back and forth as you're cutting. Now all of a sudden, you're standing on one foot doing it. And the other one, you're trying to get the lathe the motor to work, you know. And the first couple years that I was doing this, I was actually holding on to the tool rest here to give myself some balance. And I do not know what happened, but I got to one show, I got up there, and it just, the way I was standing, whatever it was, something snapped, something hit all of a sudden, and it just started working, and I can do it. Yeah, you do. You know, it takes some practice. At the show, I was at the Sykesville Wine Festival 2 weeks ago, and I realized that it wasn't my right leg that was doing the pumping that was getting tired, it was my left leg that was getting tired. Because, you know, I was standing there and the muscles, I wasn't using the muscles, and I just needed to shift and get some blood flowing again, and then get back to work, and it worked pretty good. One of the things that I found early on, it was very important, even more so, is having nice sharp tools. Because again, you know, you're providing the energy, and the sharp tool made it so much easier to cut. I could get a lot more accomplished with the sharp tools. One of the things that I do have and sell are just simple icicles, and this is one of the things that I was doing at the show last week, and I like the idea of using distressed wood, and all of a sudden I realized there was a piece that could come out, and so it looked pretty cool right there. And somebody was talking about green and dry wood. I tell you, the wall behind my lathe, there are stains on it from the water coming off. You know, I love it. Cutting green wood is awesome. You get shavings coming across, the dust level is a lot lower. You just have to be aware that the wood, when it dries, it will warp, it will bend, it can crack, and sometimes you have to throw it away, and sometimes instead of having a nice flat level lip on that bowl, that lip goes like this, you know. And I've got a bowl that somebody picked it up and looked at it and said, "What machine did you use to make this?" And I said, "That wood lathe." And he said, "Well, how'd you do that? This is an oval bowl." It is an oval, but it was made on a wood lathe, and you know, it shrank, and when it did that, actually it looks kind of cool that way. But anyway, any questions? Yes, sir.
Small pieces that you're making, do you find it easier to make them on a lathe like this where the speed could be slow compared to electric? Or does it matter?
It doesn't matter that much. The speed is a little slower than I would turn on my other lathe. But as I would tell the kids at school, when difference between using power tools and hand tools is power tools, you just make mistakes faster. You know, using the speed with this, one of the things I think that's nice about that is that people can see the cutting a little better, you know, and so they can see what you're doing as you're cutting. You can get a nice surface on it, you know, spend a couple minutes sanding it, and you're done. Now, obviously, you can't turn faceplates on here, so it has to be spindle turning. And again, the larger the diameter, the harder it is to keep that piece of wood turning so that you can get it cut.
When you're in your tailstock, is it just a pin that your piece is turning on, or is it a live center type arrangement?
It's not a live center.
To be true to form.
It's a cup center that has a center pin coming out of it. I turned it down on the metal lathe at school and then heat treated it so that it would stay polished. One of the things that I think that many of us have got out of using, because we have life centers now, is the idea of a little piece of wax. Get a little piece of wax and put it on the end there, and it makes a big difference as to how easy it is to keep the wood turning. Homemade mallet, works great.
Turn the handle on the lathe?
Oh yes, oh yes.
I saw Nick over at the Sykesville Wine Festival 2 weeks ago. I went by his place 4 or 5 different times, and there was 10, 15 kids and adults just with their jaws open watching him. So it's a good entertainment. Where's your next? Where are you going to be this summer? Are you going?
My next show isn't until September. I'm going to Arts Fest in Solomons. We used to live in Calvert County, near there, and so I was there as an undiscovered artist for the first year, and then went back the second year, and it's the best show that I've been to. And when we moved up to Tawnytown, I decided that I would like to go to local shows, and I don't want to be elitist or anything, but my things, and from what I've seen over here, your items also outclass most of the craft shows that are around. And so, finding a show that we're not outpriced is not an easy thing to do. I was at the Maryland Wine Festival in Westminster last year, and I thought it would be an absolutely fantastic show to go to because people had to pay big bucks just to get in the door, but they paid big bucks to get in the door to go buy wine. And they were not interested in the wooden wine goblets that I had, or the wooden stemmed wine goblets, or even the bottle stoppers that I'd made. And
Don't go to Linganore either.
I have no intention of going back to the wine festival. Now, the Sykesville Wine Festival, and Tawnytown's got one also. There's a difference in them, and the show last weekend was a very nice show. There were lots of people there. I didn't do quite as well as I did last year, but I had a lot of customers come in, and
Good for you.
I'm even getting people to say, "Oh, I've seen you at other shows," and so that's always a good thing. Any other questions? I mean, I can talk.
Wife go with you when you go to the shows?
Yeah, she does, which is nice because it gives me an opportunity to, she doesn't like to, but she will sell for me, or at least take the money, and it gives me, I don't have to worry about that. I can sit here and do the turning, and I love it. And the number of people who have come to talk to me because they are wood turners, or they want to be, or they've tried it once and would like to get back into it. And I met Steve there, and that's how I got here tonight. In emails with Arnie, trying to figure out when would be a good time, and I'm looking at my schedule and the schedule for the clubs and everything, and I said, well, it's either now or September, and so I was looking forward to seeing how to use the sharpening system.
I'll come back next month.
That's next month?
Yeah, Dave will do that next month.
Oh, okay,
You bumped Dave.
okay,
No problem. You can plug me in.
okay. I can bring one, I've got one too.
All right.
I just
More
wanna
the
make-
merrier.
Yeah, he was gonna do the Tormec system. I came into some money and I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. You're gonna buy one, and it makes a tremendous difference, cause you can keep your tools sharp, and yes.
I was at the woodworker show a couple years ago in January up at Timonia, and a few years after I bought the Tormec, and there was one attendant like myself listening, watching the demo, and the guy turns to me and he says, how do I know this is any good? I said, well, you know it's good when you take the piece off and you cut yourself. It's like a razor blade. I mean, that is one of the finest sharpening things I think I've ever seen.
I must admit, I have a love-hate relationship with
Oh,
it.
do you?
Yeah. I love it once you've already shaped your tool and for maintaining an edge.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely hate to grind a new edge on a tool with it.
Yeah,
And it takes forever.
I've never used it on turning tools, so I'm new at this, but for the joiner blades and
Yeah,
motors,
yeah. Yeah.
be careful.
Now, I find that there are some things, like I was sharpening some knives the other day, and the system that they have for doing that, I'm
Yeah.
not so sure about. But I'll tell you, for sharpening something like this,
Rough and gouge.
I mean, it's an inexpensive tool to begin with. I've got tools at home that this whole set cost a fraction of what those tools cost, but you can get a very nice edge on it. You can polish it. The polish on the edge actually makes it stay sharp longer. And on something like this, the polish on the edge makes it slide over the wood easier, it's smoother, and so it takes less energy to do your cutting. But that's for next month, huh?
Yeah, well,
Something to learn.
Yes. But anyway,
be my straight man. I'm okay with that.
well, I spent
Yeah.
40 years demonstrating. It's just that this is those demonstrations I'd done them already. This demonstration's a little bit different. So anyway,
I will say I'm a fan of the new CBN wheels, though. For those who
The new what?
CBN wheels, the diamond impregnated wheels,
oh yeah, okay.
they're coming down in price. That's the good news.
Any other questions or comments?
You don't do any physical exercises to keep your legs strong, or that's enough to keep strong?
I normally don't. The only time I use this is when I go to shows. Well, the exercise I get is I go for a 1.5 to 3 mile walk every day.
Hey, that's what it takes, yeah.
Yeah. Our community, it's a 1.5 miles around, and I go every morning, or almost every morning, and then many days I'll go in the evening also. And it keeps you going.
Right.
But yeah, the comment about the size of my calf, my thigh is overrated, I guess, because I don't do that much with it.
Very nice.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
It was great to come down. I want to thank Steve for talking me in, basically talking me into it. Arnie set it up, and